The following is a production of the Greece Historical Society. The second Tuesday of the month programs for the Greece Historical Society is sponsored by members of the Greece Historical Society and by the ads in the Greece Historical Society's Corinthian, and also by donations. The space for the event is provided by the Greece Public Library. Please support your local library. And now, our feature presentation. Pioneer Families of the Town of Greece by Marie Poinan. Recorded Tuesday, November 9th, 2021.
This is not working. Okay, I just want to let you know, we do have a museum next door. If you're not a member, if you haven't been there, we still have our Prohibition exhibit up, and we have a new exhibit on Greece Olympia, the first high school here in Greece, which opened in 1959. So I want to introduce Marie Poinan. She's a native of this area and a graduate from Nazareth Academy and the University of Buffalo. She's written several books, including one on Northgate, Yates Thayer Estate, the Odenbach Shipbuilding, Charlotte Blast Furnace, and firefighting in Charlotte. She co-wrote with Marie Poinan, Winning the Vote and the Our Town in World War II. For 10 years, she wrote and published a yearly publication, Discover the Harbor District. She's been a Charlotte High School archivist, and for several years was editor of the Charlotte Community News. She did research and grant applications for the historical marker for the Latham Beach House at Latham Lake. She's given countless of programs on local history, local families, and in 2016 she was awarded the Greece Regional Chambers History Award. So,
that was a long time ago.
So in anticipation of the town's Bicentennial, Marie, along with Joanne Snyder, has not working. Has spent several months compiling stories on pioneer families of Greece in preparation of a new book. So take it away, Marie.
Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. It's not too loud? Okay, because I don't want to have to yell. I got a big enough mouth as it is. My husband will attest to that. So anyways, what I want to do tonight is introduce you to the process of what we did, how we started doing this book, and why we were crazy enough to take up this undertaking. Start to finish, we were talking about it in March. The book will be out in December, so we're talking 10 months start to finish. So what I want to go through is the process, because some people think, people just sit down and write books. Not for this. This is all because of the pioneers, and what we had to do is engage the community to find out things from them and to get information for the Historical Society. So I'm going to try to go through some things a little bit quicker than others, and what you're going to see is a smattering of pictures from different families, so that you can get an idea of what's going to be in the book. I'm not going to show you all the pictures that are in the book tonight, because you'd be here till midnight. So, as Bill said, we wanted to do this book in anticipation for the Bicentennial. So we wanted to figure out the best way of doing that. And what we wanted to do is feature the people who were here for the first 50 years. Some people were here before there was a town of Greece. They were here in the 1700s. They were here right after the Revolutionary War. So we wanted to have a cutoff point. Plus, being that there are very few maps of Greece at that time, we had to attach it to something so people had a jumping off point. So we figured, oh good, there's an 1872 map. Let's start with that and we'll go from there. So that's how we decided to do the first 50 years. Now, you might say, why did we want to do this book? We wanted to give a chance to show. Did I just cut out? I did. We wanted to showcase. Why am I? Hello? Is it working now?
Yep.
As long as I don't turn my head. Okay, I'll look at the screen. I won't look, I apologize. I'll look at the screen, this way I won't cut out. We wanted to feature the pioneer families that were here and give a chance for those people to showcase their heritage. We also wanted to give new people that have never done family research the tools so that they could start doing their own family history. We also wanted to showcase how valuable any historical society can be in that search. And we wanted to showcase the Greece Historical Society. And of course, the biggest thing is to engage the community, get them involved. And as a result, next year we'll be issuing pioneer certificates for people that were here and have documented their heritage before 1872. So the methodology was, how are we going to find the families? Should we find them, or are they going to find us? It wound up being both. And then, of course, the old adage is KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So that's what we did. We tried to do it the easiest way possible to get as many people. We started out very simply by I did up a poster. It was put in the museum on the first floor in the dining room, so anybody that visited the museum saw this poster. Then we put the word out on our website, in our monthly newsletter, The Corinthian. We started with word of mouth, and then we went from family to family. From the first family we would contact, they would contact other family members, and that's how we got our people to start with. Then we had the fortune of getting it in the Greece magazine, which comes out. It's a limited supply in terms of where it is geographically in the town of Greece, but we had a wonderful write-up in the Greece magazine. So what we did was we came up with a questionnaire. For those of you who are here and have participated, it shows the kind of questions we asked. When did your family come? How did they get here? Did they serve in any war? War of 1812, Civil War, anything like that? Or do you have stories of their pioneer life? Now, granted, we're going back to 1792, 1810, 1820. There's no pictures. None of us were around. Our grandparents and great-grandparents weren't even around. So a lot of families do not have any of this information. We had to take that into account. So people could not fill out the questionnaire. We would help them say, okay, what do you know about your family, and start working backwards like you would do anybody that does genealogy. You start with this generation, you start working backwards, and that's what we started doing with all of our people. Then the criterion that we had to use is we had to have a pedigree chart so that people could document the fact that they came from the town of Greece, somebody lived in the town of Greece at a specific time, or was born here or died here, so they filled in a pedigree chart. Then, as I mentioned before, we started going with that 1872 map. Only one little problem. If your family didn't own any property in 1872, they're not on that map. So what else are you going to have to find? Like, here's the family, the Renniff, they're in this book. And great, they're on the 1872 map. So where else do you look if you don't have those kind of resources to find people on the map? We went to surrogate court. Joanne went up there. We had 57 people that died that we researched their surrogate court files and came back and read that for a couple of months. We investigated death certificates. We started combing newspapers.com, and then there are a couple of free websites and there are a couple of paid websites that we started going on to get the obits for people to find out where they died. And then last but not least, the census records for Greece. And the hard part is that in order to find a pioneer who was here before 1822, and that was when it became a town, there's only one problem. Before that, it was the town of Gates. So you had to look at people and say, I think those people are from Greece, eventually. But they were listed under the town of Gates in the 1810 and 1820 census. So here was a case study that Joanne used for her Renna family. She found them. They were the original people who founded the town of Linden in Vermont. And when they came west, why they came to Greece, anybody's guess. But 1829, they're in the town of Gates. And then they moved to the town of Greece. The first census they're in is the 1850 census for the town of Greece. I don't know if that's too late, if people can see it. But then the next thing that we did is we gave people a release form. The information that was on the release form was so that we knew where the information came from that people were giving us. Did you do your family history on Ancestry and take that picture from somebody else's family tree and then put it on your family tree? Well, we can't use that. We can't publish that. It's not yours. So we had to find out the source of every single piece of information and every photo that we got. Did it come from a newspaper? In order to do something at the museum, we can use newspapers as long as the cows come home. We can use newspapers. You can't do that in a book that you're publishing, that you're charging money for. So we're limited in what we can use and what we can't. The other thing is to know the source in order to protect not only Greece Historical Society, but believe it or not, to protect family from other family members that will come later when they see this book and they say, where did you get that information from? We have to have that answer because we've already been asked by several people. In fact, several of our people, when they get their stories, they said, what's the source of the information? So we have to document every little piece of information that we get. The release form, why was it needed? So that it would allow us to put the information that you give us into the files. Not only the information, but the photographs, and that they're yours to give. Then we also want to use this all through next year for the Bicentennial. So that's the second part of it. And then the thing that we have to do is, there's tons of families that have given us wonderful, wonderful pictures. We can't put every picture in the book. So we want to do displays next year. And we're closed January and February, right, in the museum. So starting in March, I'll start doing a display with some family. And you'll find out from looking on the website. We'll say what family we're going to feature. And then if you have a featured family, all those pictures that you gave us will be in the display at the museum. We just can't put them all in the book. And then also the information is for the items that were submitted that really can't go into the book, like those newspaper articles or other information that we can't use in a publication, but we can put them in the museum in the display. The photos, as I mentioned before, a lot of the photos were before there was photography. I mean, what was it, 1839 that photography was invented? So you have to make sure that there are pictures, then you have to make sure that they're of high enough quality that they can go in a book. A lot of pictures look terrific on your computer screen. They're not printable. Even if you print them, sometimes you have to jump through hoops in order to get it to look good in a publication for a book. We're also being published through Amazon. Maureen has had a book published through Amazon. I never have. So I'm used to going to my printer and saying, can you go on page 16 and lighten up that picture, please? And I can't do that with Amazon. So I don't know. I have to make sure everything's high enough quality when we submit it the first time so that we see how the pictures come back and then we'll adjust from there. Then also we had the problem that there are several families that had absolutely no photos to give us. Nothing. So there I go again. We had to invent the story around and work around what they had, which is basically nothing. So we made the story, do we have a house? Is there some place that the family frequented that we can take a picture of that still exists today? We can use that instead of the photograph of, Joe and Bessie that we don't have. So we went from the premise that every family has a story to tell. And our goal for the project was to engage the community and to get information for the files. Because, is it back on? No. Now is it gone? Oh.
No, it's not.
Okay. So it doesn't make a difference if I move or not. Okay. My pet peeve, which Bill knows I talk about all the time. How many of you are on Facebook? How many people post pictures on Facebook? Okay? Do you know when you go back and look 3 months from now, you'll never find that picture again. That's the problem. So many people have had this, I don't know what's going on with this, it's getting worse now. I apologize. So many people put things on Facebook. How many times Bill and I have called up people and said, "Hi, we're from the Greece Historical Society. Would you like to share a copy of that photograph with the Historical Society?" I mean, we've approached families for that, and I'm gonna take this off, so can you hear me if I talk?
Yeah,
Okay.
the camera can't, so.
Oh, the camera can't. All right. Set up the camera. All right. So we've called people and asked them to participate. I gotta face this way, it's the only way it works, I'm sorry. And we've asked people to give us the photographs because they disappear when they're on Facebook. We also wanted to highlight, in our case, many of the pioneers that have had absolutely.
Does this one work? No?
No. Yes,
Everything's cut now.
I think it's supposed to be the system.
Yeah,
Try this close to your mouth and see if that works.
okay, how's this?
Yeah.
Okay. We wanted to highlight the pioneers who never had anything written about them. There's tons of families that you're gonna meet in this book that have never been seen before in print. And we wanted to celebrate those people, and then just on the side, and that's why I wanted to tell you how crazy this was. The very first person who called me up was a woman, and she said, "Well, I'd like to get my Nash family in volume 1. And I said, I apologize. I've never heard that name before. Well, after a lot of research, minimal at best, they were here with the Loudons. They were here before 1800. But nobody had ever written anything about the Nash family. So I apologized, and yes, they qualified to be in the book. And we have information. No pictures, but we have information. So that's the kind of thing. We want to highlight the people that have never had anything written about them before. And then the other thing is, for people that have just moved to Greece, maybe they've only been here 2, 3 years or 5 years, you want to celebrate the town that these people are in. The Bicentennial means nothing to them, but you can show them other families or the name of the street, some family that has been here for 200 years, and then that's how they appreciate. So I see that you feel the same way. That's how you get people to understand. As an aside, my mother was a history teacher. I hated history. Okay, now let's see if I can work. I hated history. In fact, I didn't want to become a teacher because I hated history so much. Instead of going on family vacations, we went to the National Archives, or I went to see the Liberty Bell. It's like, oh my God. So what do I do now in my old age? I do nothing but history. So what goes around comes around. My mother's laughing. Two-handed, I don't know if I can do this. Another important thing to remember is we started doing this during the pandemic. We started talking about it in March. And it's amazing what you can get done over Zoom and through the phone call and on the computer. So 9 months from start to finish. And what we tried to do was encourage people to gather what they know, get a timeline together, build their stories, see what they had, start talking to other relatives, and then go start doing their own research. Oh, did I mention that the other person who's writing the book with me we'd never met before? Joanne's a retired nurse. We both belong to Greece Historical Society. She'd never written a book before. She's a great researcher. And I'm going, this is a recipe for disaster. We get along famously. I talked to her 3 times today before I came here. So, and she also, her husband got transferred to Florida, so she moved there last month. So we're doing everything on the computer and via phone. So the only day, Wednesday, she goes to Disney World, so I cut her a break and don't call her on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We started out by doing a program on Zoom That's because the library wasn't having in-person programs as of yet. So I invited my friend Barb Kohler, who at the time was the genealogist for the city of Rochester at the library, and she retired at the end of June. So she came and she did a part of the program, and Joanne and I did the rest of the program, showing people how to do research to get them started. Then in July and August, we had in-person programs it was supposed to be outside at the library the first day. In July, it rained, so we wound up doing it inside, which wound up in a way to be a blessing because some people came armed with their photographs. If we had done that outside, we never would have been able to sit there and scan their pictures. So we wound up doing the August program inside. We found out that less than half the people who were applying were even qualified to be in the book. And we had many folks who had already come prepared with their family trees and their photographs, and they were all set because they've done years of research. So here we are. The people on the left-hand side sitting with Joanne had never attempted to even do their family research. They didn't know how to even get started. So Joanne was taking them and showing them how to do it. I'm sitting here with Paula Benjamin, who came, didn't know him from, anyone else from the Historical Society. He came all set with his pictures, and I'm going, oh, I didn't bring I've got my phone with me, I can take your pictures. So we were doing his pictures that day. And then Jim, I see Jim sitting in the back. Where are you, Jim? Okay, he's sitting in the back. He got to meet his cousin, but he's sitting at my table, and Linda's sitting at Joanne's table, and we knew that the two families were interrelated, so we introduced the two cousins to each other for the first time. That was great. So we really had something there. And then we had meetings at Long Pond Road. We went to people's houses. There again, Jim played chauffeur and took me out to Eleanor Whitty's house in, is it Hilton?
Yes.
In Hilton. She's wonderful. She's a genealogist, her mother's a genealogist, and she had a ton of original photographs that we were able to copy. This book has been taking a lot of collaboration. Internally at the Greece Historical Society, I had to write something up for the board of directors to give to Bill to present to the board every month. They could ask questions and I had to answer them, and that's how we had to go back and forth when nobody was, even the meetings were on Zoom, right, Bill? I think we were still doing the board meetings were on Zoom.
It still are.
Yeah, so, they still are on Zoom? Okay. So anyways, it's very difficult to try to do stuff in a pandemic. Then we wanted to have a committee appointed for the Bicentennial for next year. Bicentennial? Okay, I'm back. The Bicentennial for all of next year. And Tom Sonner, one of our board members, was appointed as chairman, and unfortunately Tom died a few months ago. So we've got a new chair to our committee. We also did a lot of fact checking all the time, every Monday with Alan and Bill, being at the museum. And then we also had to start getting the word out in other places with other families, making phone calls, and then try to establish the deadlines that we were going to get the information. Locally, we went to the Greece Historian's office here at the library, Keith Scher. We got a lot of cooperation from Fred and Jack. They're sitting here from the Charlotte Genesee Lighthouse because Charlotte was part of the town of Greece until 1916. So we also did the circuit court, as I mentioned before, and visits to cemeteries. Then Bill, who deserves a pat on the back and a medal for, Bill, go to 1424 Long Pond Road and take a picture for me. Okay. Joanne would do the same thing. So he was out every day taking pictures of houses or buildings that were still there. Thank you, Bill. And then Joe Vitello took the pictures over at Mother Sorrow Cemetery, because I live on the other side of town, so it wasn't that easy for me to get over here. The research by us was done in order to augment what the family already had or what they were missing. So we would go in and jump in and try to do what the family didn't have so that we could add to the story. And then we encouraged everybody to contact the other people in their family so that they could get information and collaborate with them. And that's where the release form protected everybody so that you know where the information came from. Now, the biggest thing was the information that we got of any use, and did we have the permission to use it? So, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, by the way, this is Joanne's grandfather. She sent pictures, and she sent this with one of the families, and I said, oh, this kid is just too cute. I can't wait to use him in the book. She goes, that's my grandfather. I said, well, at least I said the compliment before I knew who he was. So anyways, what we wanted to do was engage the community and get as many responses as we could. What Joanne had done was she had talked to somebody in Virginia. They had seen it in our newsletter, how they got our newsletter, if they saw it. Hello?
No.
Back? Oh, okay. So they saw it in our newsletter. If they saw it online, we don't know. But she talked to somebody in Virginia as a result. There was somebody from Minnesota that she contacted because there was a photograph that she wanted to use. And some lady from Tennessee stopped in to the museum, and she was on vacation and she was looking for information for her family. So Joanne and Bill helped her get the local information. We got a story out of the deal, and she was able to further her research. Then we got the word out by putting things on Facebook, on the website, in our monthly newsletter, the magazine, and mostly by word of mouth. The outreach is listed here, what we've done to date. And a couple of the things that I want to talk about are the non-local ones, which is kind of small to read. Joanne called and wrote to Battle, England, because one of the Mitchells had a tavern there in the early 1800s, and she wanted to get the information about that tavern. So she talked to England. She also contacted the Michigan Historical Society, as did I, she contacted them for the Lay family, and she talked to Vermont. And those are some of the states that we've talked to people in order to get information. In fact, I just got off the phone with a nice lady from down in Florida before I got here. But Joanne wins the prize. Qatar. An active duty Air Forceman had information about his Fetzner family. She wins hands down. I'm not touching that. So who are you going to get to meet in the book? Okay, now you get to the fun part. I've done the homework. So you're going to meet the postmaster for the town of Greece. His name was James Fleming. He came from Valley Castle, County Antrim. A lot of the people, obviously, were Irish, and that's why we got the name Paddy Hill. So a lot of them came. It was a push-pull thing to other people that came from their hometown. The Coles, the Kenyons, and the Spirits. You're going to meet people that settled by the Erie Canal. Here's the house that's built entirely of sandstone. That's going to be in the book.
That's Maureen?
Yeah. Shh. I don't think she's been told yet. She was going to get warned that her house was going to be on the tour in the book. The Kenyons were part of the First Baptist Church. They were very active in that. And that church started right after the War of 1812. It's the oldest church in the town of Greece. How many people knew that?
The ones that go
there. Pioneers from that arose. The Hogans, the Beamishes, both Flemings, who are not related to each other. They're from different parts of Ireland, by the way. The Loudons, the Butts, the Mitchell, Carpenter, and Toll. There's a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter standing in front of the house that they lived in. And why is that important? Because it was featured in an 1877 history of Monroe County. You're gonna meet people that live by the ponds in the bay, the Nashes, the Loudons, and the Frisbees. And you're gonna meet people that lived on Mountain Boulevard or English Road. We have Captain John Burns, who's related to my husband's family. We have the Thorpes and the Farnans. Elaine Farnan Hall is sitting in the front row here, so that's part of her family. And the Eddy. How many people know what the name of Eddy Road became? Mount Green Boulevard. So you're gonna meet people in Ridge Road, the Uptons, the Lays, and the Mitchells. There's the Uptons, that's sitting over at Ridgemont Country Club right now, and there's their house on the 1852 map. And you're gonna discover the new families, the Nashes, as I mentioned before, Johnson, Riley, Lay, O'Neill, Perrin. Nobody's ever written anything about these people before, so you're gonna meet them in our book too. Just for an example, the Perrin family has a prominent plot in Fall Cemetery, and they've been here since the 1830s. There's Nettie Perrin and her husband, John Hill Gorton. Their daughter was Myrtle. The mother died when Myrtle was only 3 years old, leaving her grandparents to bring her up. When she got older and got married, she lived in this house, which is at 606 Long Pond Road, except it doesn't exist anymore. It's the tenant farm for the Loudon property. Here's Art and Myrtle's family. These are just their kids in 1961. But they're parents. So, going back to the Lemkes, which is a name that some people may recognize today, there's the tenant house in the other picture, and right here is the main Loudon house. The Lemkes are on their property at 606, what's in the background, but the Loudon house. So, and there's the picture that we got from Harrison Loudon on the right-hand side. So we got to meet Grandpa. Here's an aerial of, unfortunately, the house is not in this picture, the tenant house, but the Loudon house is. So this is how the families got intertwined in the town of Greece. He had Simon Butts, who married Elizabeth Loudon. She died when she was 30 years old, and he got married again to a woman named Sarah. Sarah and Simon's daughter married Frank Loudon. There's baby Harris on his porch. And there he is, all grown up. And in the background, what's there? That's the tenant house at 606. So those are the kind of parallels that you're going to see in this book. We want you also to be able to discover places that are no longer here. This was a book that was purchased for $5 at a flea market, and it had the name Winnie Kirk on the inside of that. So the woman brought it to the Charlotte Library where we were doing a presentation. She goes, "Any clue who this woman is?" I said, "No, but I'll tell you the next time I see you." So she had all these wonderful pictures that she had bought in this book. Well, that's the church at the end of Ladder Road, the Congregational Church on Manitoba, and there's the church that it replaced.
Wow.
She took those 3 photographs of the original church made of cobblestone, and it's no longer there. They use that for the foundation of the new church. She just happened to have a new Kodak camera, because that's Kodak number 2 on the right-hand side, the round circular photograph. So she had these pictures. Where would you? And for $5 at a flea market. You're going to get to meet Adam Shearman. He lived on Latona Road at Ridge. You're going to meet the Fetzmers. Vanessa. Everybody recognize that street name? There's Charlotte and Edward. Henry and Bessie had a store at the northeast corner of Latta and Long Pond, right down the road here. And there's the barns that obviously no longer exist. Francis Hadlock Bailey She was a Headlock House of Paints. That's her family. And there's Sarah Eddy. Everybody recognize that house at the corner of Stone Road? There's the family sitting in front of that house.
One of my photographs that they ran out to.
So, we've got families from Charlotte, as I mentioned before, part of Greece, until 1916 when the city took them over. So you're gonna get to meet the Latta family. On the left is the only known photograph of the original Latta building. We got that when we were doing the historic marker in front of the building, and this was given us by Dr. Strabino's daughter. So we've got that photograph. And then on the right-hand side, that came from the Parma Historical Society. That's how it looked in the 30s after it had been divided into two houses. So this is the corner of Latta and Lake Avenue. If you look on the left-hand side, that's the Charlotte Post Office building today. And on the right-hand side, you see the Kenmore Hotel. Well, Kenmore Hotel used to be George Latta's house in the kitty corner across the street from Samuel Latta, who's the customs broker. He lived in a two-story house, as you see in the 1852 map. What he did after he got done living in the house is they took the entire house, raised it up, put in a second floor, and it became a hotel. It was known as the Latta House, which was George's house, not Sam's, but it was known as the Latta House, which was a hotel. Then it became the Kenmore, and there's the man who ran it. His name was Frank Pye, and we have a picture of it burning down in 1943. And where was that picture taken? It was taken from across the street in Sam Latta's house. We're gonna meet Joe Fleming. Joe Fleming was was the postmaster's grandson, and that's no matter where I go. Yeah, okay, I'm back. The Joe Fleming, it's now Mr. Dominic's, so that there's a picture from the 70s. You're gonna meet the Tiernans. On the left, we see Ella Tiernan, as she graduated as a teacher. And on the right, you see her teaching at the Charlotte Grammar School. She also taught in the high school. Very distinctive looking woman. And there she is with her entire class posed in front. This came from the Charlotte Genesee Lighthouse. This is her entire class. So, question time. What did Greece have that nobody else had? What was unique to this town that hardly any town around here had? They had water. We're getting close.
Orchard.
A beach.
Oh, trolley.
Oh, the trolley. Okay.
The trolley, the Manitoba trolley. It was only in existence from 1891 to 1925, but that is what made the town of Greece the resort attraction that it was. All these places sprung up, and you have seen Phil's wonderful program about the trolley. He takes you through every stop and what's there. So that's great. I just put a couple of the pictures in here. There's the Island Cottage, because people might recognize that. And they were selling real back beer. More on that in a minute. Crescent Beach. This is the original Crescent Beach. The Edgewater. Stop number 7 in the trolley. There's what it looked like in the 1902 map of the beaches that the trolley traveled across. And on the bottom, you're going to see George Stout's cottage. Well, that name doesn't probably mean anything to you, but for those who have seen the bootlegger exhibit, there's the Stout boys. Cute little cherubs, aren't they? They all grew up to be bootleggers. Especially the big one on the right-hand side.
Wasn't me.
They ran the Grove House, which is now Bernard's Grove. They were arrested many, many times. Their booze was confiscated, but they were never, ever convicted of anything. There's George. His nickname was Midge, and there's his wife, Bertha. and I have a personal interest in this, because I lived on Beach Avenue. There's my house on the bottom. It didn't look anything that nice. It was a cottage and we didn't even have central heating when I lived there in 1963. But who built the house right across the street in the empty lot? But Mr. Stout. So he built a ranch house I could no longer see from my bedroom window, which I highlighted there. I could no longer see Lake Ontario because the Stouts lived there. Back on the left-hand side, there's another picture that Winnie Kirk took of her trolley ride. And on the right is the Rosalie, which was the boat that took people by land and by sea. They could get to Manitoba Beach either way. There's a map of Manitoba. And there's the line of trees, some of which are still there that you can see. The trolley started in 1891 and it was abandoned because not only of the trees, the cars, people were going more places by automobiles, but the fact that they had to fix the trestle across Braddock's Bay, it was going to be too cost prohibitive, so they said, that's enough. So that was the end of the trolley, and unfortunately, we killed to have that back today. But that was the one thing that was unique to the town of Greece that nobody else had, was that trolley. There's the Manitoba Beach Hotel. And those are the kind of events. They would have picnics week after week after week. Anybody that does newspaper articles, everybody from the city of Rochester, that was the big thing, is they would have their picnics in the summer. People would go by trolley to Manitoba Beach Hotel. So what we want to do is find connections to our past, however we can. Here's the one place where I'm going to digress. I'm going to tell you a little story and I'll show you how it fits in with our book. I was doing research with my friend Mike Parker. He was looking for his great-grandfather. This is kind of a genealogical journey. He was looking for his great-grandfather. All he knew about him was that he was a brewmaster somewhere in the city of Rochester. Well, we found out that he was the brewmaster at Moorbach. There's a picture of Moorbach on the left-hand side, the lithograph. There were no known photographs of the Moorbach brewery, except Mike Parker had them, okay, I'll flip this way, had them in his family's album from his grandfather. There's the building on the right that you see in the lithograph on the left. I found a picture of his great-grandfather. They used him in an ad. Herr Gottert. He was wonderful. Now, he spent 18 years in a Munich brewery. So, he's well qualified to be the brewmaster at Moorbach. Remember the sign was on Island Cottage? There's the building on the left from the ad. There's the building on the right. Matthias Kandolf started Moorbach Brewery in 1910. He named it after the place he was from in Germany, spelled differently, but Moorbach, which was in Alsace-Lorraine. Here's the picture out of Mike Parker's family album. There's where the brewmaster lived, and what Kandolf did was everything, if people are familiar with the city and Curlew Street, all those houses on Curlew Street were built for the factory workers in the brewery. So this was the brewmaster's house. So in the back, you can see the brewery. That's how close he was. It was his backyard. There's the building that you saw in that previous picture. Up on top is what that house looks like. It's still there today. And on the bottom is the picture that we just had in the album. Now, why is this important? Because that guy happened to start another place in Rochester before he started Moorbach. He started the Genesee Brewery. He bought it and changed its name to the Genesee Brewery. And then, where did they sell the beer? In Bill Place, corner Lara in North Greece Road. There it is. That's the only, as far as I know, that's the only photograph that we have that has Moorbach on the Domain Hotel. It was known by many other names. North Greece Hotel is in this picture, that you see down here. But in our book, you get to meet the guy who built the place. There's James Fleming. He's the one seated with the black hat. Next to him is Nell Dalgurney. When I named these pictures many years ago, I got this from one of the relatives, and I said, what should I call it? She goes, oh, I don't know. I said, how about the Four Amigos? So that's what I've called them ever since. So now I went to find the picture, and I'm going, what did I call? Oh yeah, the Four Amigos. And the family actually had the actual building plaque that James Fleming put. It was sitting in the bar at the Bay's Hotel. And they went and grabbed it when they were going to tear it down. So the family's got that, so it's going to be in the book. How many people have ever seen it? Probably 10. Here's his business card. And then you also get to meet William Carroll. He's in the book. He ran it. I'll stop and pause for a minute. I know it's hard for people in the back to see that. That's a list of all the families that are in the first volume. Sorry, I couldn't get it to print any bigger than that. Bill, did you put that on the website, or is it on Facebook? Where did you put that list?
It's only on a registered genealogy page.
Registered Genealogical Society, but we should put it on.
Yeah, we can.
I'll give you an updated list.
All right, okay.
And then we can put this up so that people can see that. So we're doing this to celebrate the Bicentennial, and here's the first look of what the cover of the book is going to look like. You've already got the book? Yeah, we wanted to do something agricultural, and I'm going to really want to do a black and white picture. I said, what's symbolic for the town of Greece? Apple tree. What could be more appropriate? So, you can pre-order the book. We've got the sheets out at the desk, and we'll also have the sheets at the craft show, which is 10 to 3 on the 20th. You can do the pre-order until November 29th, and fingers crossed, it should be out 2 weeks after that. I have no control over that part of it, so, you know, this is a wing and a prayer type thing, so we're hoping that it's here for Christmas, but that's entirely up to Amazon. Once they get the proof and we get it back to read, it should be 2 weeks. I don't know. So I'm not going to promise, but we're trying to get everything done so that it's ready for Christmas giving. And just so that you have a preview, we already know that there's too many families, and people are going to want to be in volume 2, or they're going to see the book and they're going to say, how come I'm not in their book? You won't have my family in their book. Well, volume 2 will be out before the Strawberry Festival. So volume 2 will be out in May. So we're taking Christmas off, and then we're going to be right back at it in January to March, taking the new people for volume 2, and we'll come out with volume 2. So, thank you very much, and if anybody's got a question, I've talked way too long, and I apologize for this, Mike. Yeah.
In talking to Joanne, I thought that volume 2 was going to be the next 50 years.
No,
No? Are you gonna do the next 50 years, or only the original Pioneer?
it depends how many people we get for volume 2.
Repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. She said that when she was talking to Joanne, they were talking about we were talking about doing volume 2 for the next 50 years, for people that come. I think we're gonna have enough people to do people before 1872, because we've got, I think, 30 people already that were not in volume 1, or people that, you know, didn't submit pictures or didn't have a story. And once they see this book come out, they're going to start thinking about it. So I'm sure we're going to have enough. If there's a volume 3, God willing, we should all live that long to have a volume 3. I'm willing to do it. So I'm not going to say no. Anybody else? Oh, come on. I couldn't have done that good of a job. Thank you very much, everybody.
I do have one question.
Yeah,
What's gonna be print only, or since it's coming through Amazon, will there be
It's
electronic?
eventually, well, we're starting with the print book,
Okay,
and that's why I can't give anybody a date, because I don't know, once we get it printed, it takes us 2 weeks. I don't know how long it takes them to put it on their website.
right,
After that, we're gonna figure out how to do the Kindle version,
yeah, okay,
and then it's gonna go to the Kindle.
okay, thank you.
So we're doing everything, we just can't do
Yeah,
it.
eventually that
Yeah.
is the plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the plan, is we're gonna try to hit as many people.
Pre-order your copies of the Pioneer Families of the Town of Greece, Volume 1 today until November 29th, 2021. The book will be available in the museum gift shop and online at Amazon.com in mid-December. Pioneer Families of the Town of Greece, Volume Number 2 will be coming out in the spring of 2022 with additional Pioneer families. You can visit GreeceHistoricalSociety.org to pre-order your book today.